Alrighty. My fellow Americans. I'm not going to start like that. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a good day so far. I'm having a decent day. Actually, pretty good day. I went on a photo walk this morning and it was quite nice. I just wanted to do a quick video for you guys on nostalgia and my thoughts on nostalgia, if it matters to anyone. I'm trying to leave my school currently. There we go. I guess I had plenty of time, but yeah, my thoughts on nostalgia, good, bad, personally. So here's my little summary of nostalgia. I feel like to me, nostalgia is very much just an emotional thing. I don't think it's a concrete, real thing. I think it's just an emotional feeling. It's just a feeling. It's not something real, you know? Does that make sense? And because of that, I think nostalgia can actually have a lot of negative effects. I feel like we always look at it as something positive, like, oh, I feel nostalgic for this time in my life and it's so great. And I think, I feel like a lot of people have good, justified good feelings about nostalgia, But for me personally, holy crap, I can't get in over there. People. Okay, well, we will try. Try to not get mad at all these humans. Turn up the air conditioning a little bit. It's hot. It is hot out today. We do have the roof down, so that's cool. Oh, legend. But yeah, thank you. I feel like for me personally, nostalgia is somewhat a negative feeling. Recently I found myself thinking, I was very nostalgic for the time that I had in Tennessee. And the time that I had in Tennessee was great. But I'm not there anymore. And nothing I ever do, even if I go back there, if I were to go to school back there, I spent about a year and a half there. If I were to go to school back there or whatever, it's never going to feel the same way. And I'm not saying it's never going to feel as good or better or whatever or worse, but it's never going to feel the same way. And that's the thing. You're always chasing that feeling of that, whatever that was in the past. And maybe it was a better situation than you were in now, but maybe it was a worse situation. I feel like some people get nostalgic about the bad times, which I find odd, but I think sometimes I get that way a little bit, and I feel like it's a bad emotion or not necessarily a bad emotion, but I feel like a lot of times, for me at least, it's a negative emotion because, oh, here we go, we can rip it through here, hold on, bear with me. There we go. Get these windows back up so you can hear me. But yeah, I think it's negative because for me, it always kind of drives me down a depressive rabbit hole of the rose-tinted glasses, thinking about sunsets that were, they were beautiful sunsets, but it's like, oh, I'm not experiencing that now kind of thing. It was so good back then, why couldn't it be like that? And I feel like that's just a bad mindset to have in that kind of thing, why can't it still be this way? Why couldn't it still be that way? I feel like you're going to become sour and bitter towards life because life is never going to be the way that it once was. That's not how life works. It's never going to feel that same way, and you're going to be spent mindlessly chasing that feeling over and over again. and you're like, oh, I'm chasing the way I felt with this. And okay, this might be loud in here, but it's kind of like drugs, because with drugs, you know, you do it the first time, it feels great. You do it a few times, it feels great. But if you get really deep down, okay, that's better. But if you get really deep down into that hole and you're just, you know, it's 20 pills to fall asleep kind of thing, then you're chasing that feeling and you're never going to get it back. Like, a lot of things in life, they're a one-time thing. They're not repeatable. And that's what makes them beautiful, is because they're not repeatable, you know? You're never going to feel that same way again. And that's okay. Like, let that moment be that moment in time. And yeah, maybe it was great. Maybe life now sucks, but you can't go back to whatever that was. You cannot go back to whatever that was. Life is always moving forward, and you have to keep moving forward with it. And even if you get stuck, you know, like, oh, I wish it was still like that, you know, get yourself out of that. Kind of go find something that will reignite that joy, because, you know, that's just like, that's kind of how life works, is like, it's just going to keep moving, and you are going to get older. You're going to get older. Now, I'm going to move on a little bit to the idea of safe spaces and the idea of safe spaces and also kind of inner child, because I think that keeping your inner child alive is very important. And I think it sort of goes with nostalgia, but I think it's more of like the healthy way of doing it, you know, doing things that make you feel like a child, but they're new experiences. You're still living in the moment. That's the thing about a child, like being a child. I don't think you ever really get nostalgia as a child. You only get nostalgia when you're older, because, loud truck, bear with me. You only get nostalgia when you're older because you're reminiscing on the past, and it just pulls you out of now. Like, you need to stay in the now, because if you're not in the now, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss whatever's going on, whatever great things are happening. And you're going to look back, and it's just going to lead to more remorse and like more regret, because you're not living now. And I think even if the now sucks, you still got to be in it. Like, you get in the shit, you're in the shit, and you're going to climb out, you know? Trying to escape it is not the way around, you know? You got to just deal with it head on. You got to go at it. Holy crap. I thought that guy was going right into me. I was for sure. Okay. But yeah, you got to meet it head on, because if you just keep escaping and running away, eventually it's going to catch back up, you know, whatever it may be. And basically, it's just like, you got to live now, man. Like, the present is a gift. That's why it's called the present. And reminiscing about the past, you know, look to the past and use it to learn, and be like, you know, that was an incredible experience. Process that. That was an incredible experience, or that was a horrible experience, or that was a mediocre experience, you know? And be like, try to gain something from whatever that experience may be, and then you gotta go. You gotta keep going, you know? On to something else. And I think, you know, you do have to stop and enjoy life and slow down sometimes. But at least for me, I don't want to stay doing the same exact thing forever, you know? I want to enjoy these new experiences with new people, with old people, with myself, with others. Wow, these tires have a lot of grip. Holy shoot, man. A lot more grip than the old ones. These guys are merging very slow. I will slow down. Let these guys all congregate. Okay. But yeah, moving on quickly to safe spaces. It's a little all over the place because there's a lot of traffic and I'm thinking. But actually, before I move on to that, I think, yeah, very important to live in now because you're going to miss it if you don't. And I think it's incredibly important to process the past. And yes, think about the future, but I feel like people get so caught up in thinking so hard about something in the past which they can't change. You can't go back and change it, dude. That's just the way it works, and it sucks, but that's the way it works. You can't go back and change it, but you can change how you feel about it and how you react and how you move on and carry forward. And you're never going to be able to go back and capture that same feeling. Like with the inner child, you might be able to capture essences of that, but you're still living in the now, you know? You're still living now with these new experiences, doing these new things that may remind you of your childhood. It may feel, you know, make you feel like a child again, you know? But that's different than nostalgia, because nostalgia, you're kind of just sitting in it and wallowing in it instead of being active and doing something with it. So I think waking up the inner child and doing things that make your inner child happy is the positive outcome of nostalgia and the positive like activation of nostalgia, if that makes sense. Now, the last thing I wanted to touch on is safe spaces. I've had some in my life where I can recall, you know, at my school in Tennessee that I was saying I was reminiscing about and getting nostalgic about. I think back to my dorm at my college there, and I absolutely loved that place, you know. It wasn't the greatest, but I loved it. And I get very nostalgic of that because I wish for that energy of that dorm and also being in a college where it's very communal and super, you know, community knit and community feeling, you know? What, my goat, this guy in his, what is that? I don't know, his Merc. And yeah, I think to these safe spaces, and I think a lot of people look to go back to those safe spaces, and it's like sometimes you're unable to, which sucks, you know? Like, I wish I could feel the same way I did back in that dorm, but that's just, again, part of the nostalgia. Like, if I could go back to that college if I wanted to, you know? I could apply and I'd hope I'd make it in, but, you know, I could go back there and do all of the same things, and it's not going to feel the same because it's not authentic. It's just me trying to repeat something that happened authentically, and you can't repeat something that's authentic because that's literally not how authenticity works. So yeah, but with safe spaces, I think it's important in your life to, if you can, I know you can't all the time, but to have a safe space to go to is super important. There's a lot going on right now. My calf is itchy. Interesting, but yeah. I think having a safe space to go to and always have that feeling, because there's a specific feeling of hominess and comfort with that safe space that all of them have. Like, you know, I might be looking for that space in the dorm, but now I feel not quite the same feeling, but a pretty close feeling at the place I'm at now. And it's the same but different. It's the same type of feeling, but it's in a different way because it's a different environment. And you know what? That's okay. That's fine. That's cool. I'm good with that, you know? Part of me wishes to go back to that school and thinks about what if I stayed there instead of transferring? What if I... Damn. Got honked at for the light being green for, I don't know, a second tops. My fault, bruh. But yeah, part of me is like, I want to go back there. I want to go back and experience that. And what if I didn't transfer away? Was that a bad decision? You know, maybe it was, you know? Maybe if I look back at it and think, I should have stayed there. I should have kept pushing. I should have kept going. But instead, I see, this is the problem. In my head, I say, I gave up on that school. Whereas that isn't really the case. I didn't really give up on that school. I just moved to a different one. I'm still doing the school thing. And even if I wasn't, like, that's not giving up. Like, you're just moving, you're distributing it somewhere else, you know? Like, I'm distributing that same energy into something else now. Because at the time, I felt like it wasn't a value of my time. And, you know, maybe it was a good decision, maybe it was a bad decision, but I can't go back and change the decision that I left that school, you know? And even if I did go back there, if I'm going back there on the sole reason of wanting to feel how I felt when I was there, it's not going to happen, dude. I'm going to be very disappointed in my expectations. That's just not how it's going to, like, that's not how it works, you know? If I went back there to, like, because I preferred their education again, like, if I was like, hey, I'm going to get this education, specific education, then yeah, like, if there's a certain attribute that's like, this is worth it enough to me than just a feeling, hey, look, fellow Miata, like, more than just a feeling, you know? More than a feeling, sorry. But if it was more than that, then, you know, do it. But if things are solely based on feeling, and, like, sometimes certain things, like, you know, it's good to have it solely based on feeling, or have part of it based on feeling, because that's the human experience. Like, you feel things, that's important, you know, it's incredibly important. But I think certain decisions, such as which school do I want to pay for, shouldn't be answered with, I felt this way when I was there. And that's it, you know? There has to be something more than that. And yeah, so with safe spaces, I just basically, like, want to say, like, make sure you have a comfort space and try to make it consistent, and as consistent as you can. All right, I'm about to head up to the dealer here, ask him a couple questions, see how much a certain part costs. I need to get a drive belt and tensioner for this car. And yeah, I'm gonna go see how much money that costs. Probably not gonna buy it today, but we'll see. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining me. Have a good rest of your day. I'm gonna find a spot to park over here somewhere. And yeah, I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one. See ya. Where the fuck?